technically I am the Fraser River Keeper. And I've been coordinating and working with a lot of groups locally to bring forward what we're calling the Fraser Valley Illegal Dumping Alliance. So just to give you an idea of who we are the Chilliwack Better River Cleanup Society, City of Chilliwack, CO's Service, Fraser River Keeper, Fraser Valley Regional District, Fraser Valley Salmon Society, Great River Fishing Adventures, Wood Tone, and still growing. We keep on having more people joining us. And at our meeting today, we had Dave from the Clean Up Chilliwack group who came up to join us as well. Mission Adopt a Block out of Mission's joining us. So we're growing and growing outward from Chilliwack and becoming a larger organization, which is really exciting. So some of the stuff we do, a lot of the work we've done up to this point has been organizing cleanups in the community. Fraser River Keeper and Wood Tone have been organizing cleanups for the past 9 years. Our 10th anniversary is coming up. The Chilliwack Better River Cleanup Society has been organizing. How long have you guys been organizing cleanups?
Since 2002. 2002.
2002. So our membership has been quite active in cleaning up illegally dumped garbage in the community. Our last cleanup that we had, Fraser River Keeper had on March 19th, was far and away our most successful we've had yet. And I would say part of that is due to the crew from Fraser Valley Salmon Society who came out and helped spearhead one of our satellite crews. We managed to have about 450 people total come out to that event, and we cleaned up about 20 tons of garbage off the Fraser. So huge impact. It's at one point, it's really great that we got that much garbage out. On the other side, it's really disheartening to know that there was that much there to begin with. So it always highlights why we need to keep doing this work and why it's so important. So this is kind of a pared down version of some of the presentations I give on this issue. So why is illegal dumping a problem in the community? I think it's pretty obvious for most of us. First and foremost, it creates a fire risk. So more stuff out in the bush can catch fire, especially flammable materials like people dumping gas cans and propane tanks, things like that. It spreads invasive plants. So people dumping yard waste or hauling stuff out of the bush and dumping it in other spots. You might not think that that's as much of an issue, but it can spread invasive plants that we don't want competing with our native species. So that's one of the reasons as well. It's hazardous to people and wildlife. Animals can become entangled in discarded gear or become sick from ingesting toxic substances. People can also be injured by, say, like rusty nails left over from pallet fires, things like that, shred your ATV tires, stuff like that. So hazardous to people and wildlife. And finally, it's just ugly and extremely unsightly. And to give you an idea, this is the kind of stuff that we're trying to prevent. This is a dump site. This photo was taken a couple years ago. Dump site on the river where the river's now come up. The garbage is now being washed into the river, where it'll be carried into ocean ecosystems, fish habitat, and cause a larger problem down the line. So these are exactly the kinds of things we're trying to stop with FVIA. So giving you guys just a bit of pointers for things, since I know as anglers you're out on the river quite often. So what do you do when you catch an illegal dumper in the act? Now this photo has kind of a funny backstory to it. It was taken by a Chilliwack Times reporter who was out, and this is a man who was caught burning garbage while we were reporting on illegal dumping issues. That's the CO side in the front talking about fines for dumping. And thankfully, because of this photo, the COs were actually able to prosecute this gentleman and issue fines to him. So when you see an illegal dumper, it's like most crimes when you witness a crime. So you want to carefully take note of the date, time, and location of the incident. You want to get as much physical description of the dumper as you can. Clothes he's wearing, what does he look like? Does he have big obvious tattoos? Things like that. Description of any of the vehicles that are involved. So we're talking trucks, cars, boats, any kind of vehicle that's there. And if they're visible, get the vehicle tag numbers. And the best way to do a lot of this stuff is by taking photos, but we'd like to remind people, be careful when you're doing that. You don't want to run up to guys and take photos of it, because you can lead to conflicts. Prime thing that we're saying, most important, stay safe. Dumpers can be dangerous people. You should not approach or confront them, because you don't want to run afoul of them. Some of them are hardened criminals. Best course of action is report the dumper and let proper authorities handle it. So as we're saying, report. Anyone who's out on the river knows the RAP hotline. It's something that's drilled into you. The COs are always talking about it. This is the best number to call when you're talking about any environmental violation in BC. They're making some changes. The provincial government's making some changes to reporting hotlines. This hotline will remain active. It is the best option. So if you see someone dumping on the river, if you see poaching, any kind of environmental violation, report it to the COs. If you, like, a lot of people would think, oh, I'll call the RCMP. Actually, the RCMP will pass that on to the CO service, but often weeks later, the trail's gone cold, they can't prosecute the person. And especially if you're catching them in the act, that is the most important thing, because you want to get that information to COs so that they can get a fine issued. So like we're saying, call the RAP hotline. COs in the field will come out and respond to your call if they're able to. One of the things we're finding is COs are extremely overtaxed in the Fraser Valley. We have a handful of officers patrolling an enormous region. They need as much help as they can get from people like you and me. And it's really important that we give that support wherever we can. They're a really invaluable service. These are the guys who are responsible for policing the backcountry that a lot of us enjoy and making sure it stays clean. So it's really important to support the COs. Finally, watch out for hazardous waste. It's not always as easy to identify as this. A lot of these photos we got actually from the city of Chilliwack to highlight when we encounter illegal lab dumps. So when people are disposing of like drug labs, paraphernalia like that in the bush, you need to watch out and you need to know how to identify it. So things like this might not seem particularly raise alarm bells for you, but things like the tubing, things like the jars, especially if there's a strange residue in it, or if you see stained coffee filters, that's a major red flag. Also, like combinations of household medical supplies or cleaning supplies like this is a prime example of what an illegal lab dump looks like. So it's really important to know if you encounter something like this, you should not touch it. Whatever you do, do not touch this stuff. Keep everyone away 100 meters if you can. A lot of times these chemicals can be quite volatile and actually be explosive. So you want to secure the area and let no one in. Next step would be contact the local fire department. They're the best people equipped for disposing of hazardous waste. And of course, if anyone is exposed to chemicals, dial 911 immediately. So we've talked a lot about how you can identify garbage, how you can report it, but what else can we do as individuals to help curb this problem? Well, be part of the solution. Raise awareness, share the information that I've just given you in this presentation, let people know about FVIDA and the work we're doing and why this is a problem in the community. Join local cleanups. Like I was saying, we organize cleanups throughout the year. Our partners do as well. If you hear about them in the community, please come out. We love having you there. It's always a good time. And finally, like I'm saying, report illegal dumping. Whenever you see it, wherever you see it, make sure you call the COs when you encounter illegal dumping. Thank you guys so much for having me out so I can explain this stuff to you. We're so excited to be working with Fraser Valley Salmon Society on this and looking forward to keep working together. Thanks so much.
Does anybody have any questions for Joe or anything that possibly he might be able to clear up? Anything comes to mind, anybody? Anyways, just a couple of words, and again, thank you, Joe. We really appreciate the efforts that you make here. And Joe comes in from Vancouver. We held another meeting today that we were at today. It was our one of our quarterly meetings, so I was involved in that, and Chris Gadsden came with me today. And some of the things that happen, and just to, Woodtone has been the key sponsor to Fraser River Cleanups. The Salmon Society a few years ago took steps and said, we really want to be involved in Fraser River Cleanup. It's another one. Of course, we always looked after the Better River Cleanup, and we had our portions to that. There was lots of our directors and people involved, and of course that means our membership. So this year, again, you know, the collaboration out there, when the Woodtone Fraser River Keeper cleanup happened on March 19th, think about that. In the corridor between Old Orchard Road and Ferry Island, Everybody knows where that is, right? Old Orchard Road at the base of Chilliwack Mountain and Ferry Island, right there at the Agassiz-Rosedale Bridge. 20 tons of garbage. And there was more garbage out there. Over 450 volunteers came out to help of all ages. So again, spreading our word within our community and lending support to people like the Fraser River Keeper. When Woodtone started their cleanup, so it's been 9 years now for them, there was not 20 people who came out to the first cleanup. Think about that. This upcoming year in March is the 10th anniversary of this cleanup on the Fraser River. And the dream really is to create communities along the Fraser River so that they will be held and take this Fraser Valley Illegal FVID Alliance and take it to the different communities and pledge it to them so that we can get the Fraser River, let's just say from Hope to Vancouver, cleaned up. And can you imagine that dream? You know, to do that and to see that happen. And this is where it begins, is right here. And of course, again, Fraser Valley Salmon Society right there, front and center, working hard.
I do have a question for him. Did you ever try to involve the First Nations? It's their river too.
I agree, and we are working to bring more First Nations involvement. Chris has actually helped us very much in getting in touch with Eddie Gardner to bring Eddie out to some of our meetings. He's just super busy. But we do really want to work more with First Nations because I agree, it is their river too. It's all of our river, and we all have a stake in keeping it clean.
And I think to help with that a little bit is that because since the FVIDA has been formed, which is quite recent, right? It's not something that's been, you know, the cleanup's been going, but the FVIDA has been quite recent in
We've only been around for about a year.
So about 1 year. So we're just kind of learning, and it's hard to sometimes bring every group to the table. We have to sort of, you know, figure out what our agenda is, figure out what our mission is, and then we need to take that tool and go to communities, First Nations communities, and ask for their counsel and for their support. So definitely a great question and something that we definitely recognize that we will be doing in the future. So any other questions for Joe? Sir. Yes, Sandy?
I was just wondering if the miracle has happened. Do we have a cooperation of the courts?
Cooperation of the court. Well, to what extent do you mean?
Well, the RAP,
We have a standing law in British Columbia that literally is anywhere imposed fine of $1,000 to $2,000. I've been here for over 50 years and I've never heard of anybody getting it. So without the cooperation of the courts, I think we're right back to square one.
I agree, and we do have a lot of support from the CO service on this. So the problem is they're so strapped and so limited on the amount of staff they have, and also they actually don't get a lot of reports. That's the biggest issue.
Just on the COs, did the COs hire a bunch more guys?
They've got a couple more people in the summer.
Yeah.
Because the last time I was talking, there was 3 of them to cover an area the size of England.
I know, and now I think they have 5. So a little bit better.
Well, actually, the other thing about that, Sandy, is even the licensing fee, as we talked about last year at our annual general meeting, when Freshwater Fisheries Society of BC came last year and gave a presentation, very exciting news was that all the freshwater angling license sales, whether it was your sturgeon stamp or your salmon stamp or your fishing license, all that license money went to Freshwater Fisheries Society of BC. Freshwater Fisheries Society of BC has stepped up to the plate and they said, listen, we recognize the fact that there's strain within the conservation service and that we would like to have more people. They pledged $100,000 of license money, whether it was leveraged or not, I'm not sure, but they did pledge $100,000 of license money to directly go to fund the COs and to help them. And they are looking at bringing another couple more part-time, summertime people. So that just helps to add more fuel to that fire.